Hey folks, my name is Andy Sito. Welcome back to another episode of Middle Class Rockstar. This episode is a little different in that I'm not interviewing anyone, and I'm reading from a script. Lately, I've been interested in the connection of a song to a specific memory or period of life. Everyone has these associations, and a song can mean one thing to me, but carry a completely different meaning for someone else. Today's episode, inspired by the recent passing of Ozzy Osbourne, focuses on one of his songs and how it connected a baseball team and its fans for nearly a decade. Let's do the show. Music is so much more than the words or instruments creating it. It accompanies everything we do. The connections we make between certain songs and moments in our lives become our own personal soundtrack. Whether it's a face, a place, or an emotion, a song can carry us back in a way nothing else can, to where we heard it for the very first time. The football team my freshman year of high school rallied behind What's Left of the Flag by Flogging Molly en route to winning the state championship in 2005. I wasn't even on the football team, but I can't help but be a little sentimental every time I hear that song somewhere. I remember the state championship, yes, but more than that, it brings back the nerves I got being a freshman in a new school, not knowing anyone. The fear of not being able to open my locker, watching the sophomores arrive at school in new leather jackets, and racing to the cafeteria to get an Inta-Juice smoothie during access break. The Glenn Hansard song All the Way Down and The Ballad of Love and Hate by the Avett Brothers always take me back to my first breakup at the end of my junior year. And The Book of Love by the Magnetic Fields will always have me dancing with my wife at our wedding reception. On the afternoon of July 22nd, 2025, I was having lunch with a friend in Durham, North Carolina during a brief rehearsal break. As we were sitting down at the table, my friend's kid, looking down at his phone, announced, Ozzy Osbourne died. I realized right away that my friend and his kid both had fond memories associated with Ozzy's music. Ozzy's last live performance took place on July 5th, 2025 at Villa Park in Birmingham. It was a massive TV broadcast benefit show titled Back to the Beginning. It reunited the original Black Sabbath lineup and raised record-breaking funds for charity. It's almost poetic that his death happened barely 2 weeks after his final show, not to mention he knew this would be it. It's bittersweet and completely fitting in some sense. I can't help but chuckle that a rebellious metalhead called his shot in front of millions of adoring fans. I'm a kid of the 90s, so my memories of Ozzy lie less with the early days of Sabbath or Osbourne's solo career, and more with running across the street to my friend's house to watch The Osbournes, a reality show featuring Ozzy and his family that aired on MTV from 2002 to 2005. I was aware that Ozzy Osbourne was an old, legendary figure in rock and roll, but we mostly watched the show to count how many times Ozzy's wife, Sharon, could say f*** in a British accent. The curse words were bleeped out, but we could imagine what they sounded like. And of course, while squirting foil pouches of Capri Sun into our mouths, we tried our best to imitate.
You're a hustler. Take your daughter and off.
Sharon!
I can't claim to be an expert on Ozzy's catalog. I did have Blizzard of Oz, Osbourne's first solo record, on CD as a kid, and I went through a phase of a few weeks where the album lived in my Walkman, which sat in the side pocket of my cargo shorts as I voyaged about the neighborhood. I got the CD as a birthday gift at some point in middle school between 2002 and 2004, before we all had iPods. It's a genre-defining record with hard rock anthems like the dark, theatrical Mr. Crowley and the blistering menace of the album's opener, I Don't Know. I grew to love the whole album, especially Mr. Crowley, but it was only on my birthday list because of the second track. You've heard it, Crazy Train. When the song first came out in 1980, it hit number 9 on the UK singles chart, but wasn't initially a massive hit. In fact, despite the song being one of the most recognizable riffs in rock history and a decades-long staple in stadium sports culture, Crazy Train didn't enter the US Billboard Hot 100 chart until after his death in 2025, when on August 2nd, it debuted at number 46. Let's go back to July 22nd, 2025, lunch in North Carolina, and Ozzy Osbourne's final day on Earth. I could see all three of us were quietly thinking about what Ozzy's music meant to us. We were each drumming up memories that had in some way, no matter how small, shaped us into who we'd become as people in this exact moment. When I hear the opening riff to Crazy Train, I don't actually associate it with Ozzy Osbourne at all. Sure, I know it's his song, but I didn't even know who Ozzy was until years after I first heard it. When I hear Crazy Train, I see the number 33, worn by an open-stanced, pinstriped right fielder stepping into the batter's box at Coors Field in the late 90s. For me, and probably a whole generation of young Rockies fans, Crazy Train will forever paint Larry Walker. Larry Walker was born on December 1st, 1966 in Maple Ridge, British Columbia, Canada. He grew up playing hockey and dreamed of becoming an NHL goalie, and only switched full-time to baseball after being cut from a junior hockey team at age 16. In 1984, Walker was signed as an undrafted free agent by the Montreal Expos, with whom he made his MLB debut in 1989. Walker quickly became known for his cannon arm, power hitting, and all-around athleticism. In 1994, the Expos boasted the best record in baseball, where Walker played alongside other blossoming stars like Moises Alou, Cliff Floyd, and a 23-year-old Pedro Martinez. After a game in Pittsburgh on August 11th, the team was 74-40, 34 games above 500, with a 6-game lead on the second-place Atlanta Braves. Sadly, that's where the season would end. The next day began a strike between the players and the owners, which resulted in a 232-day lockout, canceling the rest of the season. It was the first time since 1904 that a World Series was not played. Of course, no one will ever know who would win the 1994 World Series, but most would agree it was the Expos' year. The lockout would also mark the end of Walker's career with the Expos. Prior to the 1995 season, he signed with the newly established Colorado Rockies. It was just the team's third season, and the city was overjoyed to finally have a big league team. Walker became a cornerstone of what Rockies fans called the Blake Street Bombers, a slugging quartet made up of Walker, Andres Galarraga, Dante Bichette, and Vinny Castilla. The Rockies were good in 1995. They finished the season with a 77-67 record, one game behind the Dodgers in the NL West. The Rockies did sneak into the playoffs as the NL wildcard team, but lost in the first round, 3-1, to the Atlanta Braves, who would later go on and win the World Series. It was still a couple years before I would start attending Rockies games with any regularity, but it was that 1995 season that Larry Walker started using Crazy Train as his walk-up song. A walk-up song, if you're not familiar, is the tune that plays over the stadium speakers when a home team hitter comes up to bat. The hitter chooses a song, perhaps to get him hyped up or to intimidate opponents, and every time they come to the plate, that song plays while the announcer roars their name over the intercom. It's a personal anthem of sorts, and it's a luxury for the home team players and fans. Because of his monstrous power at the plate and electric arm in right field, Larry Walker and Crazy Train quickly became synonymous with Rockies baseball throughout the city of Denver. Picture this. It's May 21st, 1996. The Rockies are hosting the Pittsburgh Pirates at Coors Field. Though it's a Tuesday night, the stands are full. Average attendance for the Rockies in 96 was a major league best at nearly 48,000. It's the bottom of the first inning, and Eric Young leads off for the Rockies. He grounds out to shortstop. Ellis Burks follows with a single to right field. Dante Bichette, hitting in the 3-hole, grounds out to third, but Burks is able to advance to second. As Bichette struts back to the dugout, having at least advanced a runner into scoring position, the crowd stands up.
Now batting for the Colorado Rockies, right fielder, number 33, Larry Walker.
Larry Walker cups the barrel of his blonde Louisville Slugger in his right hand and walks confidently toward the plate. His get-her-done mullet flows out of his helmet like a prize stallion, while the opening riff to Crazy Train blares through the bleachers. On a 1-1 count, Walker mashes a towering fly to left center field off Pirates southpaw Matt Rubel. He trots the bases with no more or less urgency than he had walking to the batter's box a few moments earlier. Andres Galarraga follows it up with a deep fly of his own. At the end of the first, the score is tied 3-3. Walker leads off the bottom of the third inning and hits a rope line drive, but right at first baseman Jeff King. With one away in the third, the Rockies faithful has to turn down their collective amplifiers and tame their distortion pedals. Walker leads off again in the bottom of the fifth inning. He drives one to center field for a double. He now represents the go-ahead run, and on the next pitch, Galarraga singles to break the stalemate. 5-4 Rockies. Walker comes to bat again in the sixth inning with the Rockies down 7-5. This time, he drills the first offering high off the top of the center field wall. The ball misses taking a swim beneath the center field fountains by only a few inches. With 2 runners on, Walker comes crashing into third, kicking up dust for a 2 RBI triple. 2 more runs crossed in the inning, giving Colorado a 9-7 advantage. With a runner on third, Walker comes to bat again in the 7th inning. There's already been 4 lead changes in the game, and before the notorious slugger can even take his first step toward the batter's box, the crowd is clamoring. Crazy Train starts to play, but it's different this time. Is it louder? Somehow more important? The opening chord reflects off the sky and bounces back down into the stadium, then erupts outward again, as a mob of fans go airborne, playing air guitar as if they wrote the song themselves. Suddenly, at the 7-second mark, the music shuts off and nearly 50,000 people scream at the top of their lungs. At 9 seconds, Crazy Train is playing again at full thrust through the Denver skyline. Larry Walker is just a single shy of hitting for the cycle. The cycle, if you're not familiar, is when a ball player hits a single, double, triple, and home run in the same game. It's rare, and getting a single is by far the easiest part. But not for Larry Walker on May 21st, 1996. The cycle is not meant to be. Instead, he blasts a 2-run bomb well over the right field fence. Rockies lead 11-7. Walker doesn't come to the plate in the 8th or 9th innings, but it doesn't matter. The Rockies end up winning by a score of 12-10. He ends the game with 4 hits and 5 at-bats, 2 home runs, a triple, a double, 6 RBI, and 13 total bases. The game on May 21st, 1996 is referred to by many as Larry Walker's best single-game hitting performance at Coors Field. I wasn't at this particular game, or at least I don't think I was. To be honest, I don't remember exactly what games I went to as a child. There were quite a few. I remember sitting in specific parts of the stadium and waiting in high anticipation for Crazy Train to signal that whatever trouble we were in, Larry Walker was going to put the city on his back and bail us out. While this particular tale revolves around a child, a baseball star, and a rock anthem, it's really about how a single song can permanently fuse itself to time, place, and feeling. Because of my childhood growing up in the suburbs of Denver, Colorado in the 90s and aughts, I'll never hear Crazy Train and not think about the dog days of summer at Coors Field. And now, with the passing of Ozzy Osbourne, it's a bittersweet reminder that music is universal. A song isn't just a song, it's a time machine. Moments become stories, stories become legacies, and legacies keep the memories of our predecessors alive. After a quick note about sponsorship, I'm going to give you some additional information on walk-up songs and their history and how music and baseball have been connected for a long, long time. If you're enjoying this podcast, please take a quick second to give it a 5-star rating and review wherever you're listening. If you're watching on YouTube, where I've got some additional visuals and things like that, go ahead and subscribe to the channel, youtube.com/Andy Sidow, Sydow. If you'd like to support this podcast and my music on Patreon, I'm on Patreon at patreon.com/Andy Sidow, once again, Sydow. If you're interested in becoming a sponsor for this podcast, shoot me an email at middleclassrockstar@gmail.com. Thanks again so much for listening, and let's jump into a little bit more about the interconnection of music and baseball. A quick aside on walk-up songs. They have an interesting history, and in practice as it's used today is still fairly new. It wasn't a standard for all 30 major league teams until the early 2000s. In the early and mid-90s, a few teams, such as the Phillies, Yankees, Braves, and Rockies, allowed some players to submit walk-up music. Adaptation started to spread quickly throughout Major League Baseball by the millennium because teams realized how much it boosted fan engagement. It created a certain mystique for our favorite players. Larry Walker and Chipper Jones of the Atlanta Braves were among the first to have signature walk-up songs. And what song did Chipper Jones choose? Crazy Train, of course. This concept as a whole, however, the connection between music and baseball has been around for nearly as long as the game itself. The first ever World Series was played in 1903 between the Boston Americans, who would become known as the Red Sox after the 1907 season, and the Pittsburgh Pirates. There was a group of raucous Boston fans that attended games and called themselves the Royal Rooters. The leader of the Rooters, Michael T. Nuff Said McGreevy, owned the Third Base Saloon in Boston. Members would gather there to hydrate on game days before making a procession to the Huntington Avenue grounds. They always reserved seats on the third baseline where they'd stand and holler for the entire game to cheer on the Boston boys while also trying to distract the opposition. The Royal Rooters came into national prominence during the inaugural 1903 World Series for their continuous singing of the song Tessie. Tessie was originally from the 1902 Broadway musical The Silver Slipper, but it gained real traction in pop culture as the Boston Red Sox battle cry. Pittsburgh outfielder Tommy Leah credited part of Boston's World Series win to, quote, "that damn Tessie song. It was a real humdinger of a song, but it sort of got on your nerves after a while." Boston darlings, the Dropkick Murphys wrote their own Tessie in 2004 to pay tribute to the Royal Rooters in the early days of Red Sox fandom.
Tessie is the Royal Rooters rally cry.
04 was the same year that the Sox broke the curse of the Bambino, a legendary 86-year World Series drought.
And the Boston Red Sox are the world champions.
This episode was inspired by my childhood and my family's love of baseball, Ozzy Osbourne, Larry Walker, and several baseball history books that I've read in the past few weeks, namely The Glory of Their Times by Lawrence S. Ritter, When Boston Won the World Series by Bob Ryan, and The First Fall Classic by Mike Vaccaro. I wrote the script for this episode, but I have to give some credit to ChatGPT for at times pointing me in the right direction. However, I can't credit Chat for its lack of fact-checking abilities. For that, I used Baseball Reference, the Society of American Baseball Research, Baseball Almanac, MLB.com, Purple Row, Wikipedia, and the before-mentioned books. Some information was to my imagination. For example, I couldn't find the exact attendance for the May 21st, 96 game at Coors Field, so I just used the average attendance from that year. If you enjoyed this episode or didn't enjoy it, I know it's a little different from what I normally do here, shoot me an email and let me know at middleclassrockstar@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. I'll talk to you next time.
Story goes, we've heard them all before, but this time it's me and I've got nowhere to go. I never throw like I did at 24, but baseball is all and all I really know. Think back to that night in 34, the lights so close and so far, too young to know any better. Then I think about my time with you, how your love was always number two. But this is my last game.